Hello everybody, it is Monday the 5th of May and I've been in the Bible again and a few things have fallen into place again. Also because I'm reading this book of Mauro Bellino's at the moment, you know, the gods of the Bible, which gets you, what's this one here, into a completely different place of thinking about these things. Yeah, if you think as of the gods of the Elohim, first of all, not just one, but that they were beings that were ruling over the affairs of man, most likely not human themselves. Yeah, beings that came from the heavens, from somewhere else, and that they were ruling over humanity. And if you look at it like that, you start looking at this book, the Bible, in a completely different way. You see different things of what is actually happening there. Now, one thing I saw, especially when I was thinking about Yahweh, and I was thinking about Beelzebub, who was the Elohim of Ekron, a Canaanite deity, we say. He was not a deity. He was a being with knowledge of healing. And there you can see really the way the Elohim themselves were organized. Their organization of rulership. Yeah? And you can see, I could see very clearly that there is complete compartmentalization of knowledge. Yeah, they were experts, let's say, in different things. Yahweh was an expert in war. He was a military Elohim. That was his expertise. And if you look at that, first of all, we are still in the kingdom of heaven because we have organized ourselves in the same way. We are still following the blueprint of the Elohim in the way we are organizing ourselves, our governments, our knowledge. The compartmentalization of knowledge is very much still here. But I want to think about Yahweh, and that is, you know, if he is the only true God. Yeah, there is no other, which is absolutely not what the Bible says. There are definitely others. Yahweh insists that he will be the only one. Yeah? And Joshua very much comes into agreement, yeah, that he should be the only one. They made a choice. Now I want to show you this here, and that is Joshua 24 verse 12. Yeah, start at verse 12. And I sent the hornet before you, which drew them out before you, even the 2 kings of the Amorites, but not by thy sword, nor by thy bow. I sent the hornet before you. What's the hornet that he sent before them that drove out the kings? Anyway, and I gave you a land for which ye did not labor, and cities which ye built not, and ye dwelt in them, and of the vineyards and olive yards, which ye planted not, do ye eat. Now therefore fear the Lord, and serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And if it seems evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in which land ye dwell, But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That is Joshua speaking. For himself and his house, he made the choice to become the servants of Yahweh, to follow Yahweh. Now, here's the thing. Yahweh led them, and it was full-on slaughter the entire way. It was warfare. Now, Yahweh said, now that you have arrived, I gave you these houses that you did not build. I give you these vineyards and olive yards that you did not plant, but you now possess them because you drove out the people. Yeah? And Joshua says, well, that may seem evil unto you. Well, it might. If you think about it, it might seem evil, but I'm making the choice to do it, to follow Yahweh, to do it this way. Now, my question is, Yahweh is giving these things to his people, those that follow him, the houses. Does Yahweh have any other way of giving houses to the people other than war, driving out the inhabitants that have actually built the houses? Does Yahweh have any other way of doing it? Does he have knowledge of building houses? Does he have knowledge of planting olive yards and vineyards? And I would say no. See, he is not all-knowing. He has got one specific knowing, and that is the knowledge of war. And if he wants to give to his houses, to his people, houses and vineyards, that's the only way he's got to do it. Through warfare. See, the planting of vineyards, the planting of crops, the bringing in of harvests, that would have been the knowledge of Asherah. She was the goddess, so to speak, of harvest and the knowledge of agriculture. Yahweh does not have that knowledge. Again, compartmentalization of knowledge. And I really think we're looking at this moment, we're still looking at history. That is how they were organized. Again, Yahweh forbade people to ask of Asherah, of knowledge. He destroyed the knowledge of Asherah because he would be the only one. The knowledge of war being the only way to get what it is you need. There's another story in Kings, 2 Kings, starting from 1. The story of King Isaiah, I think you would pronounce that. Anyway, so the guy had a bit of a mishap, and Isaiah fell down through a lattice in his upper chamber that was in Samaria, and was sick. And he sent messengers and said unto them, Go inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, whether I shall recover of this disease. But the angel of the Lord said to Elijah the Tishbite, Arise, go up to meet the messengers of the king of Samaria, and say unto them, Is it not because there is no God in Israel that ye go to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron? Now therefore, thus says the Lord, Thou shalt not come down from that bed on which thou art gone up, but shalt surely die. And Elijah departed. So, and then the king tries to send other messengers, and they are being destroyed. They never reach Ekron, and the king does die. So is that the might of Yahweh? Yeah? He is the mighty only God. He forbids that you speak to any other Elohim. In fact, to inquire, it's not so much worship. It's now been taught as worship. They are gods and it's worship. It's not. They are beings. And you're inquiring of another Elohim, of knowledge. Yahweh forbids, and to do that is punishable by death. So here, Yahweh show his omnipotence, his omnipresence, and how great he is. And he is the only one. I mean, he says the king will die, and the king does die. Is that because of the might of Yahweh? Well, in a way it is, because he is preventing the messengers to get from Ekron to Ekron. He does. He destroys them every time they try. But why does the king die? Because Yahweh is actually preventing him from getting medical treatment. That is what's happening in that story. Yahweh is preventing him from getting medical treatment. That's why he dies. Why does Yahweh prevent it? Because he has to be the only one. And he does not actually acknowledge, again, there's no acknowledgement that Yahweh does not know about healing. He shows his power by letting the king die. But I am asking, does Yahweh know about healing? And I'd say he doesn't. He is an Elohim of war, a military man, alien. That's what he knows. But he wants to be the only ruler. Now the last bit, and here comes Jesus. And really start to understand what the text says. And that is in Luke 11, I think it is, yeah. Let's start 15. But some of them said, he casteth out devils through Beelzebub, the chief of the devils. And others, tempting him, thought of him signs from heaven. But he, knowing their thoughts, said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against a house falleth. If Satan also be divided against himself, how shall his kingdom stand? Because ye say, I cast out devils through Beelzebub. And if I by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom do your sons cast them out? Therefore shall they be your judges. Yeah, if I cast out devils through the knowledge of Beelzebub, which was the knowledge of healing, the Elohim of Ekron that had knowledge of healing. And he says, then by whose name do your sons cast them out? Can your sons cast out devils? Can they? Those are the knowledges of one kingdom. Compartmentalized, yes, but they are all knowledges of the one kingdom. And they should not stand divided against each other, but should serve all. Now, to be fair, if something does come up against you, an enemy comes up against you, yes, the knowledge of Yahweh would be the knowledge you need. I doubt, again, at the same time, if the Elohim of Ekron knew anything about warfare. Most likely not. So they are all limited in their knowledge because it is compartmentalized. But it is only through cooperation, to bringing the knowledge together to serve all, that the kingdom would stand. And Yahweh was in conflict. Well, he is military. He thrives on conflict. That is his thing. He's in conflict with everything else. And he causes division. He causes war. I don't think he was the only one, but this is what the story says. Now, I looked up, the story of Isaiah, the king of Samaria. Googled it, and Google brought up, well, the king of Isaiah was worshipping the false idol god of the Canaanites. Beelzebub was a false idol god. That's what you're being told. They are false gods. There's only one true God. That is what church doctrine will tell you. And all the rest of them are false gods. Well, for starters, again, they were not gods. They were beings that had knowledge. And know their knowledge was not false. You would know them by their fruit. If the Elohim of Ekron could actually heal, then that knowledge was truth, was real. There was nothing false about it. You would know them by their fruit. The knowledge of Yahweh was definitely real. It caused slaughter all over the place. Yeah? Genocide at times. It was definitely real. Now, Bellino and also I think Paul Wallace are talking about a cargo cult, what is now religion. Yeah? There were beings there and we've made them into deities, and now we're asking in their name. Or actually we're only asking in the name of God, which is only one, which is completely not what was actually happening. But here I said the gods are still between us and the Creator. So if you were really wanting to drive out demons, so to speak, heal, that's what it was about. It was about healing. You ask in the name of Beelzebub, which is the Elohim of Ekron. Then you still have a God there. Yeah, that has to do it for you. You have to go through the God in order to receive what it is you want. Or, if you are going to war, ask in the name of Yahweh. Yeah? Again, you have this God there that is doing it for you, that you need to go through in order to reach the point of whatsoever you ask for in prayer. Believe that you have received it and it will be yours. You would have to go through them. And as I said, their knowledge is not given for free. The knowledge, Yahweh did not give his knowledge for free. He demanded complete and utter servitude, so that you would receive what he could give you. But if we see that that is what they were beings that had a specific knowledge. So if you were wanting for healing, why do you have to ask in the name of Beelzebub? Could you not just ask for healing and thereby completely bypassing the God? And then would you be given? I think you would. This is where we need to get out of religion. Absolutely need to get out of religion to be free, to ask freely for what we actually desire. And then, as I always say, be of sound mind about what it is you're asking for, and have the knowledge of good and bad. Anyway, here I leave it at that for today, but again, Yahweh, omnipresent, omnipotent, the only God known. He was a being, he was an Elohim, he was a military Elohim. That is his knowledge. If he gives you houses and vineyards, the only way he can do that is by driving the others out in a military operation, because that's all he knows. And the others were not false gods. They had a different knowledge. Asherah, having the knowledge of agriculture. Beelzebub, knowledge of healing. It was the way the Elohim were organized. And can we ask, get out of having them do it for us, or having to ask of them, to ask the Creator Himself out of our own truth, out of the truth of our own desire. Stop being religious, become spiritual. Anyway, I do leave it at this for today, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.